Welcome to the Truth or Die podcast, where we tell the truth as if our life depends on it, because we believe it does.
This is not a normal podcast. It's a movement. It's not entertainment. It's a wake-up call.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Truth or Die podcast. My name is Robyn, and you'll probably be wondering why I am alone. And that is because a couple of weeks ago, I put up a TikTok video saying that if you guys got our YouTube to 500 subscribers, that I would sit down and I would do a story time about my history, everything that I went through with my ex. I know that so many people are curious because it was pretty hectic. But before we get to that story, I want to give a bit of context about who I am, where I've come from, and sort of where my abuse began, because this was not the first time that I have been in a precarious situation. I want to start with my childhood. I grew up with a narcissistic father who was not very nice to my mother and slapped her around a little bit. But I'm really nervous, if you can't tell. I had some experiences growing up with my own father, and that kind of shaped how I viewed men. So I want to tell you a couple of stories. When I was probably about 12 or 13, I lived with my dad, and he had this girlfriend, and I would audibly hear him beating her. I never physically saw it with my own eyes, but I could hear it. I could hear the sounds. I could hear the cries. And it really messed me up. And I didn't expect to be getting this like choked up and emotional about talking about this, because I've told this story so many times to like close friends and stuff like that. But when you put it into perspective and you get on a big platform and you tell a bunch of strangers about your history and your past, like it's really confronting. But I digress. There were a few instances where I had to call the police on my father myself a little bit later in life. He was very controlling. He was always telling me what I could wear, what I couldn't wear, where I could go, who I could talk to, controlling what I ate, how I thought, my process of thinking. He was also an addict. He had a very hefty marijuana addiction, which led me down that same path. And it wasn't really a father-daughter relationship. It was quite strange, and I never realized that it wasn't normal until I got older and I, was talking to friends about their parents and stuff like that. It was more of a friendship. Like, he treated me more like I was his mate than I was his daughter. And so I never really had that solid father figure in my life. I didn't know what a real dad was supposed to do and how they were supposed to act. But yeah, like I said earlier, I had to call the police on my father multiple times. The first time I had to call the police on him, I was 17. I dropped out of school. I was living at his house. I didn't have my own bedroom. It was a 1-bedroom flat, and I was kind of like, my bedroom was kind of like a hallway. It's really hard to describe. And I was kind of roughing it. This was, my mum had a bit of a mental breakdown, and I had to move out of her house. She needed to be by herself to figure her life out. Understandably, she'd been through a lot raising 3 kids on her own, and she needed her space. It was time. But yeah, this particular night where I had to call the police on him, I was supposed to be going to work. And he had accused me of going and seeing a boy, and it wasn't true. I was dressed for work, and he was like, no, you're going to meet up with a boy. Like, you can't go anywhere. So he locked me in the house, and I had to climb out my bathroom window and jump a fence and like run down the driveway. He was sitting out the front when I jumped the fence to run down the driveway, and he ended up getting it's like a harness that you like use to like climb buildings and stuff like that. He did antennas. So he grabbed that out of his boot and he started like chasing me with it. So I was like terrified that he was going to hurt me. So I ran into my neighbor's house, which I had never met, and they gave me shelter. They gave me some food, and they helped me call the police on him, and they ended up taking a report from that. And I didn't speak to him for a couple of years after that. I don't think it was until I was like 20 or 21 that I actually spoke to him again. And the following year, I think I was 21 or 22 when I moved in with him for the second time. Now, the reason why I moved in with him is because my relationship with my eldest father had fallen apart, and I basically was homeless and had nowhere to go. So that was my only option, was to go and live with him. He was living in a house by that point, and he had a couple of spare bedrooms for Leilani and I. I lived there super depressed, was drinking every weekend, was smoking weed every single day, and was supplying his habit as well. And there was an incident with the daycare center where there was money taken out of my account when it wasn't supposed to, but because it had already been taken and put into the account of the daycare, they couldn't give it back to me. And it was like this whole fiasco. But that was supposed to be my rent money. So I wasn't able to pay him that money. And I sat down and had a conversation with him about it and said, look, this is what's happened. And he essentially blew up at me, calling me names, that I was useless, that I was disgusting, that I was a CUNT, and that I was lazy. And, he never should have taken me in, and all this sort of really, really fucked up language that you should never direct towards your daughter as a father. And I ended up just being like, I'm not having this conversation with you while you're like this. So I got up and I started to walk towards my bedroom, and he chased me. I ended up running. Now, mind you, this man, very frail. He's had a heart attack by this point, and shouldn't have been running after me, had a walking stick, but was essentially running after me. I busted into my bedroom door, closed it. It had a lock, so I locked it. This man busted down my door with his body, like slammed his body up against this door and broke it off its hinges. The frame of the door was all snapped and cracked and pushed in, and came in and yelled and screamed at me. My sister's dog was staying with us at the time, and he ended up coming in and sitting on my bed next to me and like protecting me. And I was yelling and screaming at him back, and I ended up getting him to leave the room, and I closed the door, I locked the door, and I was just like, I can't stay here. By the way, Leilani wasn't here for this. She was thankfully at her father's house while all of this was happening. But I was like, I am not having a bar of this. I will not be treated this way. This is so fucked up. This is my dad. Like, I'm so scared that he's going to start hitting me, because I knew what he had done to my mum. So I called my auntie and I said to her, look, I can't stay here. He's getting really violent. He hasn't put his hands on me yet, but I'm scared. So I packed a bag. I jumped a fence again, escaped out the back, so that I wouldn't be seen. And I just kind of like left a note on my bed saying like, I'll come back for my stuff. We need some space. And I slept on my auntie's couch with my daughter for about 6 weeks. So over a month. And the only reason I was allowed to go back into that house to retrieve mine and my daughter's belongings was because I had a police escort. He refused to let me back into this house to get mine and his granddaughter's belongings. And we spent over a month living out of backpacks, sleeping on a sofa bed at my auntie's house. All of this kind of behavior led to me being very, very hypersexual, very, very pick me, people pleasing, I just want to be chosen type of attitude. And this was reflected not just in my young adulthood when all of this happened, but also stemming from, the incidents from when I lived with him when I was really, really young. I also lived with him when I was like grade 5. So I would have been like 9 or 10. And that was not any better. It was very heavily controlled. I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled and I wasn't allowed to have an opinion. I was told what I could wear, where I could go, who I could be friends with. It was very controlled. And looking back as a parent, it was really fucked up. Now that I'm a parent, looking back at the treatment that I got when I was younger from him, it was not okay. Anyways, all throughout my teenagehood from all these incidences when I was younger, I was very hypersexual, like very, very hypersexual. I can't believe I'm admitting this on the internet, but I think my body count at 17 was like 100. And because I was just so hypersexual and I just wanted to be loved and accepted by anyone who paid me attention, literally. Like I was a bit of a hoe, but, again, that very hypersexual nature. I was also, I keep burping, I'm so sorry. I also was sexually assaulted a few times in my younger years, my teenage years. My first experience with a boy, I was completely blacked out, left by my friends with a bunch of boys. I still to this day don't know what happened. I don't know if that was the night I lost my V card, but I woke up in this boy's bed completely stark as naked, and he was like 4 years older than me. I think he was like 16 or 17 at the time. And so I'm getting all jumbled up. So I was like sexually assaulted when I was 13, and then I was also sexually assaulted again by a man that I was supposed to have been able to trust at 14. I think I was like 14, 15. I can't quite remember. And it was actually one of my sister's boyfriends. I'm not going to go into gory detail because it's still a very sensitive topic in my family. And this is no shade whatsoever towards my sister and I. We have we're repairing our relationship. We're working on our relationship, and we know that it's a sore spot. So this is no hate towards her whatsoever. But the incident with her boyfriend at the time really, really, really messed me up because I was supposed to have been able to trust him, and he was like 19 or 20. Like he was a lot older. And he had come into my bed in the middle of the night and, tried to touch me and stuff, told him to go away. And then I didn't hear from him or my sister for 2 years. So all of this happening between, the ages of about 7 to, let's say, 22, my experience with men that I was supposed to be able to trust was horrid. I had very, very low self-esteem. I didn't have any boundaries. Like I said, I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be chosen. And I started looking towards the male population for validation because any man that I'd ever let into my life or that I had trusted had betrayed me somehow. Now, a little bit of context on my dad. I didn't meet him till I was 7. So mum and dad broke up when I was I think I was 6 months old, and I didn't meet him till I was 7 years old. So those really, really younger years, there was no men. The years where my brain was being developed and my trust was being developed and I was, getting a real lens into the real world, completely distorted by men. So I just had to prove to them, to the male population, that I was worthy of being loved and that I shouldn't have to prove myself like I'm perfect. You should love me, pretty much. And that set a really, really dangerous precedent for what I went through, moving forward from that. Backtracking to when I was living with my auntie, like I said, I was homeless. I was driving around on my L plates looking for rentals for about, I think it was 3 or 4 months that I was living with her or sleeping on her couch in total. And I was driving around my car on my Ls because I didn't have my Ps yet. I still didn't have my Ps. I was terrified to drive. Anyways, looking for rentals and you know, sometimes I'd spend weekends at some of my friends' houses and just get blackout drunk. There was an incident when I was living with my auntie, and looking back now, I'm like, I literally could have been kidnapped and tied up somewhere in someone's basement and no one ever would have found me. Leilani was at her dad's and I was living with my auntie, and I was like, you know what? They live down the road from the pub. I'm going to take myself down there and I'm going to have a couple of drinks. I ended up spending 5 hours at the pub getting blind, rotten drunk. And I started chatting to like these three older guys. They were probably like in their 50s. And mind you, I was like 22, maybe 23. And I got in a taxi with these 3 older men and went to a different location, like not in walking distance of my auntie's house whatsoever, and kept drinking with them, allowed them to buy me drinks, was like, you know, laughing and carrying on with these older guys and stuff like that, kikiing in the smoking area. And it was really, really dangerous. I put myself in some really, really dangerous situations in the name of being accepted, in the name of being liked, no matter who it was, no matter how old you were. I just wanted to be accepted and loved by the male population. Really fucked up. Anyways, while I was also living with my auntie for those 3-4 months, was when I started talking on Facebook with my youngest father. I don't like talking about him because anytime I bring him up online or he sees someone that I know or someone that he knows sees me like out in public, I get contacted by him, and I want absolutely nothing to do with him. I don't want him to have absolutely anything to do with Aria. He is not a very nice person. When I met him, I was homeless, sleeping on my auntie's couch, didn't have anywhere to live, desperate for love, desperate for acceptance. I started hanging out with him here and there, and then it just got really intense really, really quickly. I ended up finding a rental and moving in there, and I think I spent a week there before I moved all of my stuff out of there and into this man's house. Mind you, this guy already had 2 kids. He was a teen parent as well, so I related to him in that regard. But I need like an entire podcast just to talk about everything that went down with this person. But he very much love bombed me and convinced me that he was somebody that he wasn't. It was, you know, I'll pay for this and I want you to be with me so that I know that you're safe, and I don't want you to go home. I want to be with you all the time. You're my best friend. Like, I want to be around you all the time. Stay at my house. Like, I'll take care of you, this, that, and the other, you know, real savior complex. And of course, I just wanted to be loved and accepted. So I was like, oh my gosh, this man's going to save me. So I spent basically every waking moment with this person. All of my friendships pretty much diminished bar one, but she didn't even live where I was. She lived, you know, I think she was living in Cairns at that point. And I've had a mind blank. Yeah, the day that we found out that I was pregnant with my youngest was the day that he switched. And he went from this amazing, picturesque, perfect boyfriend to who the fuck am I in a relationship with, because you were a different person yesterday. So what ended up happening the day that we found out that I was pregnant was we were going to a housewarming party, and I encouraged him, you know, why don't you get a 6-pack, relax, I'll drive. Like, by this point I had my P's. I'll drive home. Like, I don't really, like, I'll just, you know, I'll just say that like I'm DD, so I'm not drinking. So we go to this housewarming party, everything's fine, everyone's really nice. And he ends up going for a walk with this girl's whose house party it was, her boyfriend. And because they'd like just started dating, and he was like, I want to vet him. So I'm going to go for a walk with him. We're going to have like a bro chat. They were gone for a while. And so a couple of us were like, oh, you know, they were pretty drunk. So let's go for a walk and let's go find them. And we're walking down towards the park, and you just hear this thumping, like body contact thumping. And this man, my man at the time, was sitting on top of this poor guy, absolutely wailing into him. He almost beat this guy to death. And I'm not saying that lightly. He literally almost beat this guy to death. You could not recognize his face from earlier in the night. And I was absolutely horrified. I ended up, you know, getting I don't even like saying it, my boyfriend at the time, and getting him into the car because I was like, we need to leave. Like, this is what the fuck is happening. And he's like incoherent, screaming at me, telling me that it was my fault, that I shouldn't have pressured him into drinking. Didn't pressure him into drinking at all. That he wasn't ready to have another kid and all this sort of stuff. Mind you, it takes two to tango. Sorry, this is bringing up so much like triggers for me. We get into the car. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. He's sitting in the passenger seat, going off his nut, incoherent, drunk, garble. Don't even know what he was trying to say. And I'm sitting in the driver's seat trying to collect myself because I am like shaking. I'm crying. I'm like hysterical because I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I've never, ever, ever seen anything like that in my life. And, you know, I'm now having to deal with this violent person who he wasn't yesterday, and I'm questioning all of my life choices at this point. And so I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and then he starts screaming at me that I'm a fucking fat, useless cunt. I'm disgusting. I'm despicable. And it brought so much memories back from the incidents that I had been through with my father. And he kicks the windscreen in to get me to move the car. So he was like, if you don't fucking move this car right now, I'm going to smash your fucking face in. Fucking move the car. Go. Let's go. And he's literally kicked the windscreen in. I can barely see. It's like shattered. There's like spider webs up this way right in front of me. And where his seat is, can't see it all. It's fucked. Apologies for the swearing, by the way, but this is the only, anyways. I start driving. I'm like crying. I'm like telling him, what the hell was that? Like, what is going on? I don't understand what even happened. Why were you fighting and all this sort of stuff? And he was just telling me to shut the fuck up, that it was none of my business, that it was all my fault, that I'm an idiot, that I'm stupid, and that he should have never have listened to me and drunken and all this sort of stuff. And between leaving this housewarming party and going home to his house, it was maybe a 15-minute drive. I'm doing 60 kilometers an hour on the motorway, and he's taking his seatbelt off and opening the door and trying to get out while I'm driving. And telling me that he was going to kill himself because I encouraged him to drink. And I just was like, what the is going on? We got like maybe a 5-minute drive from his house, and we're at a set of lights, and he gets out again, and I just let him go because I was like, I'm going to die in this car because he was like trying to get out while I was doing 60 kilometers an hour. I was like braking on the motorway. There's cars like beeping at me, and it was just insane. I've never been in a situation like that in my entire life. Still haven't been in one like that since. Anyways, it was hectic. And I tried to like slowly drive near him so I could see him so that he would be safe. Because, you know, somehow I'm responsible for his life. And we eventually get home. He just goes straight to bed, and I don't speak to him until the next day. But the next day, he doesn't remember anything. Nothing. Remembers nothing. Has no idea what's happened. He's like, why am I all bruised? Why are my knuckles all messed up and all this sort of stuff? I'm like, you beat the living daylights out of someone last night and tried to kill yourself while I was driving. You also abused me, and I won't be treated that way. I tried to leave that day. He wouldn't let me. He was like, no, please stay, crying, this, that, and the third, guilt tripping, very coercive control before coercive control was coercive control. I didn't know what that was back then, but very, no, if you leave, like, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm afraid, like, I don't know what happened. I'm really scared of myself and all this sort of stuff. And looking back, he knew, like, you could see it on his face that he was like, oh, I don't know what happened. He knew what he did. And the verbal abuse from that point, there was a couple of incidences right at the very early pregnancy where he lost his shit. I'm not going to get into those because they were minute compared to what I dealt with for the rest of the relationship. But yeah, there were a few incidences where, you know, he blew his top completely, and I was just like, I'm not doing this. And I would go to leave and he would chase after me and no, stay. Like, I'm sorry, I'll change. That'll never happen again. Blah, 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 as they do, narcissist. And, yeah, so not long after that, COVID happened. So I cancelled my lease, and mind you, I had this lease for like 3 months. I spent a week there. I did not go back. Like, I'd go get new clothes, but I did not stay in that house for the 3 months, the first 3 months. Anyways, I cancelled my lease and we moved into a house together, like in the hinterland, that was like in his family. And so I wasn't on the lease or anything like that. During COVID, I was not allowed to leave the house. I was not allowed to go get groceries. I was not allowed to go for walks on the beach. I was not allowed to go anywhere because I would be putting his baby at risk. Now, part of it I understand, but this was not about care. This was not about preservation of his child. This was about control, because I was not even allowed to go for a drive in my car. Unless I was taking him to work or I was with him, I was not allowed to go anywhere. Nowhere. Not only that, I was pretty much caring for his mother who was sick and taking care of my eldest and his 2 existing children at the same time. Homeschooling 3 of them. Not full time, but it was enough to stress me out. Now, it was a 4-bedroom house on a 10-acre property, right? I was left alone for 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that he could go out and do whatever he wanted. Mind you, this is in lockdown during COVID. Sometimes he was at work, other times don't really know where he was. Sometimes he would say, I'm going to fly my drone on the beach. I don't think you should come because, you know, social distancing. I don't want to put the baby at risk. So I wasn't allowed to go with him. I now know that he was likely going to visit another woman. But pretty much from the moment we moved into that house, There was no physical contact. I was a carer for his mum, a carer for his children, someone to clean his house and cook his meals for him. And that was it. I was a piece of furniture. I was ignored. And when I brought my concerns to the table for our relationship, it was, you're overreacting. You're a drama queen. You've changed. There's nothing wrong with our relationship. I'm getting sick of you. On more than one occasion, he joked about and burying me on the property because no one would ever find me. And there's literally so much that I'm not even going to be able to tell all of it. But I was pretty much ignored. And then when I brought the concerns up, I was told that I was crazy. And I would get pushed to the point where I'm the one yelling and screaming and being abusive because I'm being completely disregarded, ignored, and gaslit into thinking that I'm the problem. And at one point, I actually did start to believe that I was the problem. That was until after I had our daughter. He wouldn't hold this child for more than 10 minutes without putting her in her swing. I was the one getting up with her every single night. He went and borrowed a friend's van and was sleeping outside in a van rather than sleeping in a bedroom with us because the baby was waking him up every night. And I was severely, severely depressed. I had been locked inside for basically my entire pregnancy. Had not seen or spoken to hardly anyone else. I'd seen maybe one friend the entire pregnancy. I was so heavily manipulated and had like Stockholm syndrome that all I wanted to do was just like fix this relationship and fix this man so that like I had a family and I could be accepted and loved and chosen. And yeah, it wasn't until after we had our daughter that I noticed little things that I was like, I think this man's cheating on me. Like this man is going out, he's lying to me. He's telling me he's going to work, but he isn't. And I know something is off. And the reason why I know this is because I went and stayed at an Airbnb with my sister for a couple of nights just because I needed some time away. This was when like lockdown had kind of like backed off heaps and you could like go out. So I went and stayed at an Airbnb with my sister for a couple of nights. And when I came back, there was an extra phone charger plugged into our bedroom. There was two, what are they called? Two power points. And there was one charger, another charger. And mind you, this is when the new iPhone chargers came out back in 2020. And my iPhone charger was in my bag. There was only two of those chargers in that house, his and mine. There was a third plugged into the wall. I saw it, thought it was weird, didn't say anything at first, walked away, potted around a little bit in the house, came back, that charger's now unplugged. I go over to the drawer, I open the drawer, it's in the top drawer. He noticed it and he hid it from me. I asked him whose charger it was. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, the one that you unplugged from the wall and put in the top drawer and that you're hiding from me. Oh, that's my daughter's iPad charger. Oh, did she get a new iPad? Oh, yeah. Asked the mum a couple of days later, oh, did she get a new iPad? No, she didn't get a new iPad. This man was cheating on me. I also, that same night that I came back from the Airbnb, it was like maybe 8:30 at night. Yeah. It wasn't super late, but it wasn't like early. And there was no one home and the door was locked. Now, mind you, we lived in the middle of nowhere. We never locked the doors, ever. The door was locked. So that was done on purpose. And I ring him and I'm like, hey, I need to come and get the key. Like, I'm locked out. I'm home. He's like, no, I'm at work. You can't come here. Mind you, this person works for child safety. I had dropped him at this specific workplace that he said he was at multiple times. He was like, no, you can't come here. It's illegal. I can't tell you where this house is. I was like, I know where you are. Can I come get the key? Like, I need to get in the house. I've got our newborn baby and my other child with us. Like, it's late at night. We want to go inside and go to bed. He would not let me come and get that key because he wasn't at work. He was at somebody else's house. And I was being made out to be this crazy person who wanted to come to his workplace and stalk him, his words, and, you know, make this whole scene of things. I ended up having to go and sit at one of my friend's houses who lived close by till 11 p.m. at night with a newborn baby so that he could be there to let me in. And he didn't even sleep in the house that night. He slept in the van. So I'm just, yeah, there's so much more that has gone down with this person that is terrifying to say the least, but I'm not going to get into it because this is already a really, really long story. But all of these incidences stemming from when I was 7 years old with my dad, to being assaulted when I was 13, to being assaulted when I was 14, to calling the police on my dad multiple times, and then being in this relationship that was so toxic, and I was stuck. I couldn't leave. I had no money. It was COVID. Everything was expensive. I couldn't get a job. I was trapped in this relationship, and I had to get out. So I told him I was leaving. I packed everything up. I went and stayed with my grandparents for 3 months. He saw Aria once in that time, and he hasn't seen her since that day. So I'd say it was probably June 2020 was the last time he saw her. And he pretty much forgot we existed after that. There was some incidences where after I was like, I'm moving to Cairns, I've got a job, I've got approved for a house, I've got support up there. There's nothing for me here on the coast. I can't work here. It's too expensive to rent on my own. I need to leave. So I went where my support was, and he we went through mediation, and a parenting plan was put in place by him, and I agreed to everything. Yep, I'll do all of these things. Cool, whatever. You call her a couple of times a week. He called twice, didn't hear from him again until I got back to Brisbane in 2024. So almost 5 years. He just forgot that Aria existed and that we existed. Sorry. Just like reliving all of that, I haven't actually gone into detail and really told a lot of these stories in a really, really long time. And I just can't believe I allowed this kind of treatment, because me today would have left the first time. You know, I think it's so important. And like the biggest takeaway from this is when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Get out. Don't stay and wait around for what's to come, because, you know, I've told the very, very watered down version, but it was horrific. I was in tears, screaming, crying every day, basically, fighting for this relationship, and was pretty much told that I was crazy for just wanting to be loved. Fuck. Oh. Get your shit together. Yeah, I think I was telling a story, and I didn't finish it. I don't know where we were at. Anyways, let this be a lesson. Like I said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time, because they're not lying. That's who they are. Okay? They'll love bomb you. They'll show you who they are. Believe them here. Don't wait. Don't try and fix them, because you can't fix them. They are horrible, horrible, horrible people. That's who they are. And I should have believed this guy the first time. And I should have believed my most recent ex that the story time you guys are all really waiting for, which there might have to be a part 2 for, that I just left in 2024. Like, I should have believed him the first time as well. I should have learnt from this experience that I just told you about and not gone through with the relationship that I was previously in. But anyways, we all live, we all learn. My frontal lobe's fully developed now. So, yeah, fuck. I think that's all that I can bear today, honestly. Like, I am so worked up and I don't know how I'm going to sleep, but I can't even go. It's getting easier, actually, but I struggle to go back to the Sunshine Coast just in fear of seeing him or one of his family members or one of his friends, because I don't know how I'm going to react. Driving down specific roads is triggering, especially the road where that first incident I told you about, where he was jumping out of the car. When I drive down that road, it's like I'm holding my breath. And that's like one of the main ways to get to the coast. So it's like almost unavoidable. Yeah. My youngest is now like at the age where she's started to ask about him and I don't know what to tell her. I really, really don't know what to tell her, but he's not a safe person. He's proved that time and time again. He's not a safe person, not just with my child, but stories that I've heard from the other mothers, because he went on to have another child after this one with somebody else. This person has 4 children with 4 different women and he's not with any of them. And I'm 99% sure he's abused and manipulated every single one of them. At least 3 out of the 4 of us are severely mentally ill or have been to the psych ward. So there's that. Common denominator. Anyways, this has just kind of turned into a yap sesh about something that I never really planned on talking about on the internet, but I wanted to give context on my previous experiences with men before I told you about my most recent experience with my ex, because this one actually makes me want to throw up. The things that came out after I left him were very, very disturbing, very, very concerning. And I wanted to give context on the experiences that I had leading up to this. After I got to Cairns, I just went like this. Like, my mental health just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And my self-esteem just got worse and worse. And I had a attempt. Like, I tried to end my life and ended up in the psych ward because of this situation. I am lucky that I had such a strong support network when I left old mate in Cairns and came back down here again in 2024. I'm lucky that I walked into the house that I did and I was staying where I was, because I don't know how I made it. But there is another episode coming where I will reveal pretty much everything. I want to say I'll have receipts, but I don't know how we're going to work that with editing and stuff like that. But this is part 1. Come back for part 2, please, where I will be talking about everything that I went through before I left Cairns and came back down to Brisbane. But I want to thank you guys so much for all your support and all your love. This has been really hard for me, but it's also been really healing. It's been something that I have wanted to talk about literally since it happened, but I have just been so afraid of the repercussions. But I think that I'm in a really, really good place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I know that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I have the most amazing fiance in the entire world who has loved me back to life. Like, it makes me, he really has loved me back to life. He's made me feel like I don't need to prove myself to anyone. I never needed to prove myself to him. He just loved me for who I was from day one and never expected me to be anything more or anything less. So I love you, babe. Thank you for loving me. Yeah, come back for part 2 and thank you so much for watching. That's it.